My name is Charlotte. I'm 26 years old and single. I don't have a full-time job. I've been a bit of a shut-in since middle school. I went to high school, but I dropped out, so I only have a middle school education. Since then, I've been living with my parents, working part-time jobs, and taking on work from online postings. I have an older brother named Sawyer, who's 3 years older than me, and he's the complete opposite of me. Good at sports, lots of friends, and the so-called outgoing type. My brother didn't want people to know he had a sister like me. He never brought friends home, and even if I happened to run into him and his friends at the convenience store, he'd ignore me. I thought it couldn't be helped and considered it like someone else's problem. Once my brother started college and moved out to live on his own, I stopped worrying about such things. Then, there was talk of my brother getting married. He would be turning 29. It wasn't surprising. Later, it was decided that my brother would bring his fiancée to our parents' house. Since I was home that day, I decided to join them. "Dad, Mom, I'm home." My brother arrived on time, and when he saw me sitting with our parents, he looked confused for a moment. "Sorry to intrude." His fiancée entered the house, seemingly unaware of my brother's attitude. Then looking at me, she said, "Huh," and looked puzzled. I could tell from her eyes that she was asking my brother, "Who is this?" He probably hadn't told her about me. "Thank you for coming all this way. I'm Sawyer's mother. This is his father." My mother introduced only herself and my father. The fiancé seemed satisfied and bowed politely, but still looked puzzled. My father didn't follow up on my behalf. My parents have always been harsh with me, who couldn't live up to my accomplished brother. When we were young, they'd say things like, "Your brother can do it, why can't you?" As if it was part of our education. But it changed as we grew older. Eventually, I was even called a money-sucking leech. It seemed that my parents were planning to ignore me at this meeting too. "I'll go and get some more drinks." As my mother stood up to leave, she whispered in my ear,
"Why are you here? Go back to your room."
I had attended this meeting because I wanted to get along with my family in my own way, but it seemed to have backfired. Still, I couldn't just leave, so I stayed put. My brother's fiancée introduced herself as Isabella. She was the same age as me, 26, but a beautiful woman with a refined atmosphere, giving off a vibe that I shouldn't casually talk to her. My brother seemed a bit annoyed. He probably didn't like me being there. He introduced the woman to our father and mother, but he didn't talk to me at all. I felt like a ghost. When the conversation about the marriage was over, casual chatter naturally started, but my brother still acted like I didn't exist. And then Sawyer asked,
What do you usually do, Charlotte?"
Before I could answer, my brother interrupted.
"Wait, Isabella, you don't need to talk to her."
That's what he said, clearly. Isabella looked a bit surprised. "That's right, don't worry about it." My mother chimed in.
"Yeah, don't worry about it. She's just a stranger with a blood relation."
When my father said that, something inside me ended. A stranger. Huh. I thought, so reconciliation was impossible from the start. That's how the meeting ended, as if it didn't matter whether I was there or not. Soon after, my brother and Isabella got married and started building a house to live in together. My brother works at a famous company after graduating from college. He's still in his 20s, but his income seems good. Isabella is going to be a stay-at-home wife and has already quit her job. Around the time my brother's house was completed, we received an invitation to a housewarming party. It would be held with a limited number of guests, including Isabella's relatives and my brother's bosses. My mother was anxious, saying, "Oh, it's already finished. Time flies. We need to prepare a housewarming gift. What should we get?" My father said,
"We're family, so it doesn't have to be anything fancy."
And he casually turned over the invitation. Only my father and mother's names were on the invitation. My name wasn't there. My mother seemed to have noticed, but asked, "Charlotte is coming too, right?" I wondered what she meant. At the meeting, they had introduced me in such a horrible way. "It's fine if I'm not invited." I declined, but my mother insisted. No, you're coming. I'll make arrangements. So I ended up going to the party. On the day of the party, it suddenly started raining. My parents and I took a taxi to my brother's house. My brother and his wife didn't come out to the front yard because of the rain and welcomed their guests at the entrance. As soon as we arrived at my brother's house, my mother said to me, "You pay for the taxi," and got out of the car with my father first. Without umbrellas, they both hurried toward the entrance. Ah, so that's why, I thought. There was quite a distance between my brother's house and ours. I thought it was extravagant to take a taxi. I was the one called to pay for the car. After I paid, I ran towards the entrance, and Isabella asked me, "Who are you?" I had only met Isabella once before. Maybe she forgot me. I thought so, and introduced myself. "I'm Charlotte, Sawyer's sister," but she said with a smile, "Oh, the high school dropout. Neat. We didn't invite the parasite living off her parents." Isabella said this casually, with a smile. My brother, who had just returned from showing someone in, came out too. He said to me with disdain,
"Huh, why are you here?"
"Hey, Sawyer, I told you not to invite her. Why is she here?"
"Well, I don't know either."
My brother didn't want to invite me after all. And Isabella changed her attitude once she knew about me. Actually, she's worse than my brother and parents. Would it have been better if I didn't come? I asked my brother cautiously.
"Yeah, you're a stranger because of your low education."
"Actually, not finishing high school doesn't even count as an education, right? Could you please leave the property quickly?" Isabella followed up on what my brother said, like she was siding with him. Her expression remaining calm the whole time was truly terrifying. Understood. I turned on my heel. The taxi from earlier was gone, and since we weren't on a main street, it seemed difficult to find another one. I didn't have an umbrella. I trudged along, getting drenched in the rain. I could hear Isabella's laughter from behind. After a while, I returned home. My parents came back looking like they had a good time. They saw my face and asked, "Why did you leave suddenly? Couldn't even call a taxi for the way back? You're so useless." My mother complained, as if it were a matter of course. Sorry, I suddenly had a stomach ache. I lied to cover it up.
"For such a reason, you left on your own. You're hopeless. Make sure to give the gift later. You're an adult."
My father told me that. Speaking of which, I had prepared something to give at the party, but I brought it back without giving it. I wanted to send it by mail, but I didn't know the address. I could ask my parents, but the atmosphere was awkward, so I decided to contact my brother. "I want to send a gift. Can you tell me the address?" This was the only reply from my brother.
"I don't give my address to strangers."
"Right." I let out a sigh. Is it really fun to assert dominance over me in private? Not just embarrassing to introduce to others? I couldn't help but be amazed. It might not be just my brother who's sending these messages. Maybe Isabella is also typing and laughing out loud. Either way, it's ridiculous. I gave up on sending a congratulatory gift. With the meeting of my brother and his wife and their housewarming party, I decided to leave home. I realized I couldn't get along with my family anymore and decided to live on my own. I didn't have a full-time job, but I had some savings from my part-time work. I was able to rent a room for living alone. Since it wasn't much to live on, I decided to try streaming videos in my spare time. I was already interested in watching streams as a hobby, and was good at finding trends among popular streamers and ways to increase views. When I started doing it myself, I made tens of thousands a month. And the amount grew, covering my living expenses. I decided to invest the money I wasn't using. The investments went well, and I decided to try running a small company importing and selling goods. I was busy in a good way and fulfilled every day. I didn't have a family that would complain about me using the computer all the time. A few months later, I received a call from my parents, who hadn't contacted me since I left home. "We want you to help Sawyer financially," they said. "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. I wondered what could have happened to the person who just built a new house. My parents slowly began to explain the situation. My brother apparently held frequent parties after building his new house, interacting with various people such as bosses, executives, clients, and Isabella's acquaintances. Among them, someone proposed an investment opportunity, and my brother ended up trusting the proposal. He wasted a large sum of money, lured by the promise of making big returns in just a few months. I was amazed. My brother had a decent job. So if he had just kept working hard, he wouldn't have made such a mistake. What a shame. Who is the person who recommended the investment? Isn't it a scam? No, it's not. It's one of Isabella's acquaintances. My parents seemed to completely trust Isabella. How much do you need? She was shocked when I asked. It was an amount that a company employee couldn't easily pay. Is that really the amount my brother needs alone? I asked my parents hesitantly, and as expected, they gave me the answer I feared. We were also introduced to the same investment. My parents hesitated before responding. I can't come up with that much money so easily, sorry. I tried to hang up the phone, but they clung on, saying, We're your real family. Help us out in times like these. Real family? Too little, too late. Sorry, but I'm busy, and I'm a stranger to you, right? With that, I hung up the phone. Later on, somehow, they found out, and my parents and brother's families showed up. The location was the office of the company I run. I was in a business meeting at the time. My secretary informed me, There are guests here for you, President. I don't have any other appointments. Who are they? They claim to be your family, ma'am. What? I shuddered. I apologized to the business partner I was meeting with and excused myself for a moment. When I went to the reception area, there stood my pregnant sister-in-law, Isabella, my brother, and my parents.
You're running a company, huh? Well, it's much smaller than where I work.
My brother smirked and looked around the office. Who are you? I asked, pretending I didn't know them.
What's with the attitude?
My brother shouted, losing his temper. My mother intervened and explained, We talked about this before, but we need your support. You're running a company, so you can help us out, right? My mother shamelessly asked for money, as if it was the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah, it's an important time for our family. Isabella is about to give birth.
The child's growth isn't good, so we need to see a good doctor. Please, Charlotte. My father and Isabella chimed in, acting as if it was my duty to pay off everyone's debts. Employees occasionally walked by the reception area, glancing over with concern. Wanting to get rid of them as quickly as possible, I said, Please leave. You're causing a disturbance. My brother exploded with anger again.
What? We're a disturbance? We came all the way here, and that's how you talk to your family?
He yelled. The employees passing by stopped in their tracks. Facing them, my brother started to make a scene.
Do you all know? This girl dropped out of middle school. She was a shut-in. Neat!
He seemed intent on humiliating me if I didn't give him the money. However, the employees responded with words my brother didn't expect. We know. Everyone knows the president's background. Me too. The president hires many people from similar situations. Is there a problem? My brother, who usually socializes only with highly educated and high-income people, seemed caught off guard and stammered. Instead, my father said,
What a pathetic company. Just a gathering of needs.
My brother chimed in.
Exactly. Companies that do business with a place like this can't be any good either.
He yelled loudly. At that moment, the president of the company I was meeting with, who had been waiting in the reception room, came out. He must have heard the shouting. My brother's face went blank and then turned pale as he looked at the man. He lowered his gaze. What's wrong, Sawyer? Isabella asked my brother.
Idiot, don't say my name.
My brother whispered to Isabella, but it was too late.
Sawyer! Sawyer! Oh, it's you!
The company president walked straight up to my brother and looked at his face.
You're the guy who always follows Mr. Long, the division manager, right? We owe a lot to your company.
His company was also a client of my brother's company. My brother was sweating profusely from every pore on his face.
That's... Oh, I guess I'm not memorable since we're not a decent company.
When the president threw my brother's words back at him, my brother went,
Ugh,
and froze up. My father, mother, and Isabella also sensed the trouble and fell silent. I apologized to the president again, ignoring them. I'm sorry for taking up your valuable time. I'll ask them to leave.
Oh, are you sure? I have time today, so I don't mind waiting. You can prioritize talking with your family.
No, they're not my family. I glanced at my parents' and brother's family as I said this. They're complete strangers. After that, my parents' and brother's family were kicked out of the company. Maybe they were stunned by the exchange with the company president, but they left quietly. As for how my job was exposed, I was curious, so I looked into it and found out that Isabella was the cause. She had a friend who was well informed about investment-related information and always had her antenna up. There was a young woman in her 20s who was making a name for herself as a talented trader and company owner. Isabella was surprised when she saw a photo in the media and realized that this woman was her husband's sister, who she had heard was a middle school dropout and neat. Isabella told my brother and parents about this and suggested they ask me for money. Since I was busy during the day and didn't answer the phone, and I didn't call them back after they asked me for money, they came to my company. I had been treating them like complete strangers, so I decided not to get involved with them anymore. But I couldn't help but look into Isabella. I was curious about her friend being involved in my parents' and brother's financial failures. That friend was Isabella's ex-boyfriend. In fact, they seemed to still be involved. By the way, the child in Isabella's womb wasn't my brother's, but the child of that investor.
No way.
My brother was devastated. It's natural to be upset since everything had been a lie. Furthermore, it seems she had been extracting money from several other men under the guidance of her ex-boyfriend. Of course, my brother and Isabella ended up getting a divorce. Isabella is now under police custody along with her ex-boyfriend. However, the lost money won't be returned anytime soon. Ever since the incident at my company, my brother's position at his workplace worsened. In his 20s, he was transferred to a so-called window side department and eventually resigned. He couldn't work there for long and eventually resigned. Possibly irritated by the financial failure and trouble surrounding my brother, my father got into trouble when the president witnessed him losing his temper with a subcontractor at work. After investigating his work attitude, he was fired. Apparently, he had been saying things like,
Junior high or high school graduates are worthless. And if you didn't graduate from a certain university or higher, you're not a real person.
Similar to what he used to say to me. So both my brother and father ended up losing their jobs. The family, or rather former family, whose income decreased, still contacts me saying, "Let's live together." By the way, I had them banned from entering my company's building, so they can't force their way in anymore. With everything that happened, we're still family, right? The unemployed trio tries various tactics to cling to me, but my answer is always the same. I don't know you. You're complete strangers to me. I have no intention of giving any other response in the future.
Here's a celebration gift, $2,000. After giving birth and returning to my husband's family home, my mother-in-law handed us an envelope with $2,000 as a baby gift. I checked the contents and then threw the envelope into the trash. Was this their payback for enduring days of being belittled by my mother-in-law and senior employees? What are you doing? Apologize to Mom, I scolded my flustered husband. Can you say the same after seeing this? My husband after checking the envelope's contents, glared at his mother with anger he had never shown before. And then he made a decision. My name is Scarlett Wood, 28 years old. I had an arranged marriage with my husband, Elijah. Elijah, 2 years older than me, is the eldest son of a Japanese sweets shop and was raised strictly as the heir, but he is a very gentle and kind person. From the moment we first met, I was drawn to his kindness. I want people around the world to know the beauty and delicate taste of Japanese sweets, so I work as a Japanese sweets artisan. Will you help make my dream come true? Elijah said this and presented me with a Japanese sweet made in my image instead of an engagement ring. As I was moved to tears, Elijah continued to speak. When we get married, Scarlett, you'll work as the young mistress of our shop. Also, we'll live with my parents in our family home. Is that okay? Living with my in-laws was a condition of the marriage. There's a lot that comes with marrying an heir, but as long as Elijah is with me, everything will be fine. Thinking this way, I accepted his proposal. We became husband and wife. As promised, after the marriage, we started living with my in-laws in the residence that also served as the Japanese sweets shop. Scarlett, you married into this family, so of course you should be prepared. Behave properly as the young mistress. Yes. The day I stepped into my husband's family home, I was already met with harsh words from my mother-in-law. The sweet married life I had dreamt of didn't exist in this world. Scarlett, how many times do I have to tell you? Learn our traditions properly. Please be more aware that you're the young mistress and act accordingly. It's so hard on our headmistress to have someone like you marry into our family. I faced daily criticism from my mother-in-law and senior female employees. My father-in-law didn't speak much, but when he was watching me, I felt tense and would sometimes make mistakes because of it. He would sigh loudly, seeing my performance. There was no place for me to feel at ease in this house. But I was determined to work hard, earn everyone's approval, and become a wife Elijah wouldn't be ashamed of. That feeling alone kept me going. During this time, I found out I was pregnant. Take care of yourself and give birth to a fine heir. Everyone, starting with my mother-in-law, began to be more considerate of my condition. At the 5-month pregnancy checkup, I learned the baby's gender and excitedly shared the news during dinner with my in-laws and Elijah. Our baby is a girl. For a moment, everyone froze. A girl? Oh, a girl. Huh. Wait, no one is offering congratulations. Elijah kept his gaze down, silently continuing to eat without making eye contact with anyone. I was taken aback by everyone's attitude. Does an heir have to be a boy? Unable to understand the Mr. Wood family's mindset, I ate my meal in frustration. The next day, everyone's attitude changed completely. Pregnancy isn't an illness. Stop being spoiled and work hard. As soon as they found out the baby was a girl, the criticism and mistreatment from my mother-in-law and senior employees returned. Why can't a girl inherit the Japanese sweets shop? I felt sorry for my unborn child, who wouldn't be welcomed into the world with smiles and blessings. I made up my mind to protect her, no matter what. I think you've noticed, Elijah, I've been criticized every day since I married into this family. The way they treat me since they found out our child is a girl is unbearable. One day, I couldn't take it anymore and told Elijah. He looked troubled. Scarlett, I'm sorry. I'm still in training. I don't have the right to oppose this family. Please bear with it. If you learn your job quickly, I'm sure my mother and others will stop criticizing you. I'm very happy whether our child is a boy or a girl. Please, take care of yourself." With that, Elijah quickly went to take a bath. Though he tried to be considerate, I was shocked by how unreliable Elijah was. But I rubbed my belly. I can't let this get me down. I'm going to be a mother. I must become strong for that reason. With that in mind, I endured the mistreatment and criticism alone, dreaming of the day my child would be born healthy. In my in-laws' home, I was mainly responsible for cooking dinner. When buying groceries, I'd pay for them first, then give the receipt to my mother-in-law, who would reimburse me. This system made it difficult to buy what I wanted since she checked the receipts meticulously. Because of this system and my mother-in-law's thorough examination of the receipts, it was hard for me to buy things I really wanted to eat. However, after becoming pregnant, I often found myself craving sour and sweet foods. Should I buy it? But I don't want my mother-in-law to make snide remarks again. I debated while shopping, but never found the courage to buy anything. One day, though, I desperately wanted something sweet. Feeling helpless, I agonized over it before finally asking Elijah, who was working in the shop. "Oh, I can't help but crave sweets because of the pregnancy. Can I have some scraps or something if there are any?" "Sure, just wait a moment." Elijah secretly wrapped up some leftover scraps from making the sweets in plastic wrap, avoiding the eyes of the employees. "Thank you." But just then, my mother-in-law appeared. "What are you doing here, Scarlett?" My mother-in-law's gaze falls on my hand. "Well, how shameless. This is the workshop for the artisans. I won't allow you to come in here anymore." Saying this, she snatches the scraps Elijah had given me and kicks me out of the workshop. One day, as I open the fridge to prepare dinner, I find it packed with high-end ingredients like luxurious Wagyu beef that I've never seen before. Since I can't use the fridge's contents without my mother-in-law's permission, I ask her for confirmation. "Can I use the food in the fridge?" "What are you talking about? That's for Natalie, who's coming back the day after tomorrow. Don't you dare use it." She coldly responds. Natalie is Elijah's sister. She married into a farming family and now, 3 months pregnant and suffering from morning sickness, she's apparently coming back to her parents' house. Returning home just 3 months into her pregnancy. I'm 7 months pregnant and I've been used and abused, being told pregnancy isn't an illness. I have a lot on my mind, but the more I think about it, the more miserable I become. So I pull myself together and prepare dinner using the other ingredients. On the day Natalie returns home, my mother-in-law is in high spirits from mourning. She had originally opposed Natalie marrying into the farming family and seems overjoyed to have her back home after a long time. "I'll cook dinner today, Scarlett, so you can go and take a leisurely walk." Unusually, my mother-in-law is kind. Usually, I'm busy in the evenings and can't take leisurely walks, so I decide to take advantage of her offer. The sky is so high. The sky I look up at after a long time is dyed red and it warmly envelops me. When I suddenly touch my belly, I feel the baby move. "Mommy will work hard for you, so come out healthy and strong," I whisper to my unborn child. Oh, what a delicious smell. When I return home, I'm greeted by the aroma of grilled steak. As I try to enter the living room, I hear voices from the inside. "Natalie, eat a lot for the sake of your baby." Peeking inside, I see my mother-in-law has lined up a variety of dishes in front of Natalie. At the table, my father-in-law and Elijah are silently eating steak. "What about Scarlett's portion?" The moment Elijah says this and looks up, our eyes meet. "Oh, don't worry. I made some stew for her." At my mother-in-law's reply, Elijah says nothing and looks away from me. There's no steak for me. I can't take it anymore and quietly go to our bedroom, trying not to draw attention. I'm pregnant, just like Natalie, yet no one tells me to eat a lot. Seeing the reality that I'm being excluded, I can't hold back my tears any longer. Why do I have to suffer like this? Neither my unborn child nor I are welcomed in this house. I just want to leave this place. My tears keep flowing endlessly. After a while, Elijah comes in with a cold piece of steak. I secretly brought you my portion. It's cold, but I'm sorry for making you feel even sadder with my sister here. He genuinely apologizes, looking remorseful. I should be more assertive, but I'm not good with my mom and sister. My mom struggled with my grandma, so she probably thinks this is normal for a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. My sister didn't like me since I was little because I was the eldest son and got a lot of attention. And she's always been mean to me behind my back. They're both strong-willed and troublesome. So honestly, I don't want to deal with them. Your family issues have nothing to do with me. Although he apologized, I realize he won't particularly protect me or our child in the future. Feeling even more miserable due to Elijah's unreliability, I eat the steak he offers, though I have no appetite, thinking of the baby in my belly. Even though it's supposed to be high-quality meat, I can't taste it. I mechanically chew and somehow manage to swallow it. Life after Natalie's return is even harder for pregnant me. Scarlett, please fetch this for me. My mother-in-law doesn't hesitate to make me work despite my big belly. Natalie, you should rest until your morning sickness subsides. Meanwhile, Natalie takes advantage of being pampered by her parents and lounges around the house all day. We're both pregnant, but even though my belly is much bigger, it's frustrating, but for now, I have to quietly endure it. Scarlett, I brought some pudding for you. The fact that Elijah started secretly buying me food I wanted to eat because he must have felt sorry for the unbearable treatment I was receiving was at least a small comfort. One day, I happened to see that Natalie's room was filled with high-end branded baby products and maternity items. I had held back and bought everything at a cheap store on the outskirts of town. Both our children would be grandchildren to my in-laws, so why is there such a difference? I tried not to care, but it made me very sad. On December 20th, I finally gave birth to a baby girl. Elijah cried tears of joy. I'll grow up quickly and protect both you and our child. Elijah made this promise to me. When we returned to my in-laws' house after being discharged from the hospital, my mother-in-law surprisingly welcomed us with a smile. Let me hold her for a bit. I handed the baby to my mother-in-law, and as expected, she was skilled at soothing the baby since she had raised 2 children herself. I guess she loves her grandchild after all. I felt a little relieved seeing my mother-in-law's demeanor. After a while, she returned the baby to me and took an envelope out of her pocket to give to Elijah. Here's a gift, $2,000. What? That much? I was surprised, but Elijah didn't seem too shocked. Maybe in this family, it's normal to give that much as a gift. Elijah handed the envelope to me without checking the contents, so I put the baby in the crib before accepting it. I checked the contents just in case. What? What is this? My mother-in-law looked away, smirking. Enough already. I threw the envelope into the trash. Hey, what are you doing? Apologize to my mom. Elijah panicked. Would you say the same thing if you saw this? I picked up the discarded envelope and showed Elijah the contents. Upon seeing it, Elijah furrowed his brows. Unbelievably, instead of $2,000, the envelope contained a bundle of receipts and invoices for luxury food and maternity items that my in-laws had prepared for Natalie. What's the meaning of this, Mom? Even Elijah raised his voice. It's only natural for the eldest son's family to pay for our household expenses. My mother-in-law shamelessly spouted nonsense. Why should we have to pay for the maternity items and baby gear meant for Natalie? who had married into our family. I can't stay silent any longer. I made up my mind to leave this house with my child. At that moment, Elijah's low voice echoed, "I'm leaving this house." What? The room went quiet, and everyone, including me, looked at Elijah. Elijah glared at his mother with a rage I'd never seen before. "What do you think we are? Your attitude towards Scarlett, how you acted when you found out our child is a girl, and how you always interfere with the store I was put in charge of. I've always been unhappy with it, but as the eldest son of this confectionery shop, I thought I'd endure it until I became a capable person to protect the shop. However, I've reached my limit. Our family is leaving this house. I won't take over the shop. Thank you for everything," Elijah said and deeply bowed to his parents. My in-laws were speechless at the unexpected turn of events and eventually left the room silently. "Scarlett, I'm truly sorry for everything. I'll protect you and our child. I decided to leave this house on my own. But will you stay by my side?" Elijah's face returned to its usual gentle expression. "Yes, thank you for protecting us. Let's overcome any difficulties together as a family of 3. From the next day, Elijah started looking for a new home, and a week later, our new life as a family of 3 began. Our new home was a small 2DK apartment, but it was very happy and a comforting space for me. Make sure you eat a lot and sleep well when you can. And to my surprise, our new home was only a 5-minute walk from my parents' house. Elijah is really a wonderful person. It's rare for someone to admit their weakness and ask for help as an adult. According to my mother, had explained and apologized for everything to my parents the night he decided to leave, asking for their help moving forward. "You can always rely on us. We're so happy that you're close by." I cried at my mother's kindness. Elijah occasionally gets messages from his mother asking to show their grandchild, but he seems to only send pictures. After discussing as a couple, we decided that our family and his parents should keep a distance for a while, and we never told them our new address. Thanks to that, we were able to live peaceful days. "Scarlett, we're running out of diapers. I'll go buy some." Elijah actively helped with housework and childcare, and we cherished our modest happiness, living humbly every day. I'm thinking of starting my own business. One day, Elijah came to me for advice. Even though the path to inherit his family's business had been closed off, Elijah, who had been fascinated by traditional Japanese sweets since he was a child, had not given up on being involved with them. His dream of sharing the beauty and delicate taste of Japanese sweets with people all over the world, which he had shared with me before we got married, was still alive in his heart. To make that dream come true, Elijah decided to start an online store for Japanese sweets. I was inspired by him. I wanted to help him achieve his dream too. With that thought in mind, I wondered if I could utilize the experience I had gained while briefly involved in making Japanese sweets at my in-laws' house, and I brainstormed in between housework and childcare. "Look at the beautiful Japanese sweets Papa made." One day, showed our child the Japanese sweets he had made. Although our 0-year-old child couldn't eat them yet, their eyes sparkled, and they laughed excitedly at the sight of gentle colors unique to Japanese sweets. Seeing that, I had a flash of inspiration. What about Japanese sweets that even babies can eat? In my head, I pictured cute baby smiles and Japanese sweets overlapping. As soon as I told Elijah, he agreed, saying, "That's a great idea," and incorporated my suggestion. We focused on developing Japanese sweets that utilize the natural sweetness of ingredients like sweet potatoes instead of sugar, and the gentle colors of the ingredients themselves without using food coloring, all while making them suitable for babies. And in about 3 months, we created the product we had envisioned. At first, we placed our sweets in a friend's Japanese sweet shop and observed the customers' reactions. The feedback was better than we could have ever imagined, with comments saying they were perfect for first meals and birthday parties. This could work. With that thought, we started selling our sweets online, and they became a huge hit in no time. The media picked up our story, and our company steadily grew. Until the business took off, Elijah and I were fully occupied with childcare and work. However, by the time our daughter turned 2, the company had stabilized and was generating a steady income. As we gained some breathing room, I suddenly thought of Elijah's family, with whom we hadn't spoken for almost 2 years. In fact, after we left, I heard that Natalie developed preeclampsia during her pregnancy and had to be hospitalized. Perhaps it wasn't good for her to eat high-calorie food and expensive meat from her in-laws without exercising much. She had to endure a restricted pregnancy with strict bed rest and dietary restrictions. Well, everyone must have been relieved when a healthy baby boy was born. Unfortunately, the bad news continued as the family's Japanese sweets shop went out of business after Elijah left. What happened to your parents after they closed the shop? When I asked Elijah, he said they were living modestly on their pension. Despite not having many good memories, they were still the people who raised Elijah. 2 years had passed since we left his family's home, and our anger had somewhat subsided. So, after discussing with Elijah, we decided to give each of his parents $2,000 in cash as a birthday present. By the way, the amount of $2,000 came from the $2,000 his mother had mentioned as a childbirth gift. We didn't know if she remembered, but if she did, we hoped she would reflect on it. Later, we received a message from Elijah that the money we sent by registered mail had arrived. His parents were apparently very happy. Although we weren't ready to visit his family's home yet, we believed time would resolve this issue. As long as we live our lives with pride, things should move in a positive direction. Childcare is still a challenge, but with the support of my parents, I can focus on Japanese sweets with Elijah. Mom, is this my candy? Yes, Cherry. The cherry blossom petals are beautiful, aren't they? Tasty? Delicious. I'm so happy. My daughter touches her cheek with a delighted expression. This is a Japanese sweet we developed to be edible even for 1-year-olds, melting in their mouths without needing to be chewed. We made it into a cute Japanese sweet shaped like cherry blossom petals, inspired by our daughter's name, Cherry. I hope this sweet, like our child, brings smiles to everyone's faces. Mom, here, open wide. My daughter feeds me a piece of the sweet. The gentle sweetness melts in my mouth. I love that face, Mom. I hope this blissful moment with Japanese sweets reaches people all around the world.